I had the forecast a little bit screwed up today, so got cold on me. How we doing?
Good. Coach, it looked like the Saints were making a lot of late movement or post-snap changes in coverage. Was that the case?
Yeah, they made it challenging. So I got a lot of respect for Dennis Allen. He had a great game plan against us. And I don't want to give him all the credit, for just some of the execution and things we didn't get done in the game. We didn't play our type of football that we've been playing for the last month. The balance stuff, the execution, the fundamental things that just weren't there on the day. And then it got away from us. And at a certain point, we just had to go, okay, let's switch modes and let's go attack and see if we can get ourselves back in the game.
A lot of the players were saying after the game that they just felt flat.
Mm-hmm.
Did you sense that early on that it was just a lack of energy and intensity?
Yeah, I think I could feel that for sure. But even in those types of games, like what do we rely on? Our basics, the assignments, the execution. Those are things that just were kind of uncharacteristic for the way we've been playing football for the last couple of weeks, and so just really a timely wake-up call for our guys. Like, we can't just show up and expect these things to happen for us. It takes a lot of intentionality. Even with all the holiday season and all that, whatever that is, we have to maintain our focus.
How do you approach these all-or-nothing type games, right, where there's a lot at stake?
Oh, yeah.
Jobs are at stake. I mean, there's so much, right?
Yeah.
And there is no, like, you guys have been kind of living this life for a while. Last week, you did have a little house money.
Yeah.
Now it's all gone. So how do you prevent yourself, others from making it maybe bigger, or should it be that big?
Yeah, it's the messaging right from the beginning. Like, every single game is big, and whether it's a loss in the first 4 weeks, in the middle of the season, or at the end, like, all of them matter. And I think not just us in this situation. I'm really proud of the fact that we put ourselves in a win and you're in type of situation over the last month. But there's a lot of teams playing for other things like the top seed, and home field advantage and those types of things too, where the stakes are high. For them being able to play home or travel. And so we try to prep the guys that way. Every game is a championship opportunity. And for sure, that goes without saying this week. This is it. This is a championship moment for us, for our group as a whole, and for us to just come back, get right back to the basics, and try to put aside any type of other side story other than, guys, let's look at brass tacks here. Let's look at our footwork, our technique, the depths of routes, the throws, all of those types of things that really didn't happen for us last week, and see if we can get back right on track to what we were doing before that.
Are you spending more time with Kyle these next couple of days, even if Baker starts, and with the situation with the ribs, how's that working out?
Oh, for sure. I mean, so we have a very interactive way that we teach in our quarterback room with our offense. So throughout the whole thing, whether it's Kyle or John, we have those conversations. We've been working, but for sure this week is like, we got to see what happens here with Baker, as we progress through the week, and Kyle's ready, and he's been working, in between drills throughout the whole season. Thad takes him and they go through the whole script to make sure he gets those reps, and so those are going to be really important as we go into this week.
And just want to follow up, how did Baker look to you today?
He had a third down period, took all the reps in a nice third down period, and he threw some accurate balls. He looked pretty good, So, again, I don't want to give too much about, the plan and the style of what we're going to do, specifically. But as far as throwing, like, he looked functional today. He ripped a couple of balls down the field and looked okay.
Obviously, when you got here, you didn't know Baker as well as you do now.
Mm-hmm.
What have you kind of learned about him, from March or April to this date? He's on the verge of having maybe his best year of his career.
Yeah, so some of the big picture things, just the leader that he is, the way that he handles adversity, the way that he takes accountability, and carries things. He's not looking to blame. He's not looking to, throw anybody under the bus. He really just wants to keep getting better, and he's got a real cool way how he relates to the players, and particularly guys who might be struggling. He's got a way of talking to them and doing those things. And for himself, too, bouncing back off of, a bad play here or there, he bounces back with the right mentality. His ability to battle through a couple of things, that have happened to him this year. Think about, going back to the first Saints game, going to Buffalo and was a little banged up and found a way to, find himself to game day and gave us a chance to win at the end, so I'm really impressed with his resilience. And then just some of the things that I've discovered throughout the season about him as a passer and the things that he does well, things that he's done better than any quarterback that I've worked with, and just throwing a lot of those out cuts that we've seen come alive, week in and week out, is going to continue to be a part of what we do, stretching the field and really learning, like the success that we've seen, in the last month is really just this chemistry of the me to you factor of learning how to throw to Chris, learning how to throw to Mike, Cade, Trey. We saw the big fumble that Trey had, but like that's a play we've been looking for out of Trey Palmer. And really, it's not just Trey, it's Baker throwing to him, and so I think the way that he's learned our guys and figured out how to get the ball to them in the right way has been really impressive too.
Much for you with the decision with Baker Mayfield. For example, let's say he's cleared medically.
Yeah.
How involved are you? Let's say he's 80% in some of his throws you're not comfortable with in pregame warmups.
Yeah.
How involved are you with the decision, get him out there or keep him off the field?
Honestly, that's going to be a decision for Baker, if he feels like, I know for sure Baker gives us our best chance to win, so if he feels like he's ready to go, like that's a decision that he'll be able to make.
I know you mentioned Mike Evans, and you're talking about Baker having one of his best years. Mike is appearing to do that as well. He's just named his 5th Pro Bowl. What have you learned about him the more that you've worked with him this year?
Yeah, there's this football intelligence, this we call it FBI, in the building, this football IQ where he just really knows how to stem routes and get himself open. He's so used to teams double covering him, triple covering him at times, and for him to be able to find the right stem to get him access in the route and then finish at the top, it's the craziest thing when you see teams double and then all of a sudden the quarterback starts to work the other side of the field and try to find a completion there. And like you watch the film later, he found a way to get open, so he gives you confidence that he's going to present himself at the right time. It's like all those things that you can't quantify, and you can't really just teach it all in a moment. It's things that happen over time, over a career. The competitiveness of the guy, just like he just keeps playing. He just keeps finding a way to fight, to scrap. Another thing I learned about him, just his willingness in the run game. Through a game last week that was pretty hard, just trying to find throws, trying to find rhythm. And while we were mixing in those runs, he still was working. He's still working his butt off on the backside to block corners and safeties. And really just a humble guy too, and where there were games like he had every right to be frustrated, and games that were hard for us. And he never turned on the offense. He never made a big scene about Mike, and these things. He just kept working, and he found a way to get himself back to focus by the next drive, and that's been really a blessing for me, and something that I really respect out of him.
And as a follow-up, do you have a favorite play of his from this year?
There's so many. I mean, probably one of the coolest ones was Indianapolis, the climb the ladder catch, goes down to the 1 yard line. We're going to get our first opening drive touchdown, and then figured out a way to screw that one up. But just the catch, that was incredible. Some of the go ball shots where it was this guy shouldn't let him behind him. He's behind him. And then it was Houston. It was Atlanta the first time. It was Houston twice, actually, down the field on some of those shots. So just his way to find a way to get past the defense where, you see across the league, you see these guys running 21 miles per hour, 22 miles per hour, and he's running his steady 20s-ish, but he went by the guy. So it happened at the right time, that speed. But I'm sure there's way more that I'm missing.
I don't know if you guys needed help in Seattle last year, but you did win your last game and got into the postseason. So
Yeah.
what do you remember about that? What do you have to do? I think you kind of touched on
Yeah.
trying to treat it the same way, but it's not the same. So what do you remember about that week?
Well, first thing I remember is Seattle. We also had to depend on the Packers losing, and Detroit. You guys remember that big 4th down Detroit win, and short story on that. So I'm catching balls from Geno Smith, and that's a task. And sometime during the week, jammed my pinky. It's swollen, and so the family and I were watching the game. We're watching the Packers-Lions game at home, And then our 8-foot ceilings were sitting on the couch, and I was like, oh, they're going for it here. When they got it, I jump up and slam my hand up on the ceiling. Just like completely just exploded the moment. But a similar situation for them this year. And I think, the approach of it was the focus on the little things. It's something where, what I shared with our team early on, and this was kind of something that I heard Richard Sherman say, and he just said, the bigger the moment, the smaller the focus, and I think that's about our details, but also it's about our game plan. It's like, we can't just like throw in a bunch of new things, guys. It's like dance with who brung you. Like, how did we get here, guys? It's these concepts, it's these runs, put a little window dressing on it, but this is going to be our offense, and we got to be able to execute, and I think that gives us a chance to play fast, to play aggressive, to play physical, on the road, against a really good defense too, who statistically, if you look at them, and they played us really well the first time, I know we got all the rain, and that kind of slowed some things down, but again, it's going to call for our focus. It's going to call for that just re-engaging, and also just we can't live and die on any drive. We can't live and die on any single play. You look at the Packers game, we have a sack fumble, we give them 7 points right there, and a great job of the group just refocusing on the next drive, and then we roll, and so we have to be able to be resilient, to lean on that armor we've built throughout the season to get ourselves back to a point where we can just execute at the most basic level and trust that if we do that, we take care of the ball, we eliminate the penalties, another issue we had last week that hasn't been a big issue for us in a couple weeks. If we can do that, guys, then we'll be proud of what we have at the end of the game. And I believe in us. I believe in our ability to finish in 4-minute situations. I believe in our ability to finish in 2-minute situations, throwing the ball and getting what we need to score. So putting ourselves in those situations to finish well.
I wanted to ask you about the run game.
Yeah.
Towards the beginning of the year, it seemed to struggle. Then it sort of started to come along a little bit after the Colts game. In the last few weeks, it seems to have gone back struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
And against the Saints, despite that,
Yeah.
kept with it and stuck with the plan. So I want to ask, what do you think happened the last few weeks of the run game? And could you just reiterate why you think philosophically it's good to keep going with that even when it's on struggles?
Yeah, what's worked for us is balance, and if you go back to the Packers game, this was a defense that saw, like, they've run for 100 yards-ish, the last couple games, so they have to factor in the run game, and we have to believe that balance is going to give us better chances to open up the field, to be able to take advantage of some stuff. Go to the Atlanta game, right? They just said, go ahead and run it today, and we did, and we had a good day there. So I think it's really critical to have that balance. Coming out of the half, there was a little shift in gears with what they were doing defensively, and they gave us an opportunity to run it. We ended with the fumble on that drive, but, I started to get excited about, hey, this is a 14-point game. We're going to play our offense. We're going to run ourselves right back into this thing, and then at some point they're going to have to factor for it, and then that's when all the stuff opens up. So really critical for me to be disciplined about the balance of it, and at the same time to take what they're giving us. And, just felt like we were not able to do that last week, where regardless of what they were doing, we just weren't functioning in the rhythm of the pass game. We just weren't functioning in our runs, and so there wasn't anything we were making them play to us at any point, in that game. And then at the end, we got to go at this point. We spread it out and start to, attack them down the field and take advantage of that.
You had mentioned that a lot's going to have to be on Baker's mind on how he feels Sunday to play the game, but knowing his toughness and seeing what he's played throughout the season, it would take a lot to keep him out, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Coach Canales,
A couple more, please.
Coming off a game where you have a season high in turnovers, what's
Yeah.
the dialogue with your team, and how do you approach that for this final week to tighten that up?
Yeah, I think it just, for me at least, as the coordinator, it gives merit to the things we've been preaching the whole time, how important the ball is. If you think about that game, and I know it's all phases of it, but for us in particular, we're getting past the 50-yard line and we're turning the ball over, and so none of the field goals that we normally pick up, kind of getting that area. We have a fantastic kicker. We didn't give him any chances, so it allows me to double down on the importance of it in practice. It's about practice. It's about, the focus after the catch, the focus of the runners when they get to the second level, the awareness of it, right, where it's like, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them in those types of situations. And always in traffic, that second offhand has to be a factor. So it does give me a little bit more weight and a little more juice to say, guys, here's what it is. If we're +1 turnovers, our defense, other than last week, have been doing a fantastic job. If we can flip that, it's 70+% win percentage. Let's give ourselves a chance there, not to mention the penalties, which made it really hard. And then it makes you predictable in a 2nd and 20 type of situation where it's like, well, I'm not going to just, hand the ball off here. It's a pass situation. Now they know they can rush. Now they can play coverage and play games, So staying in rhythm, staying on schedule on 3rd down, because a lot of those penalties and things we had 5 3rd and 10 pluses. In the 3rd and 6 to 9 area, I think we were 75%, one of them by penalty, but we're good on 3rd down when it's not 10 plus. Nobody's great in that area, so it all ties into that to be able to play complementary football.
Coach, a rules question. On Palmer's catch and fumble,
Yeah.
the NFL says control, 2 feet down, and a football move.
Right.
Did he make a football move because he's stumbling, and was there any talk of maybe challenging that as an incomplete pass?
I think it is a football move as he's trying to gain balance because he took quite a few steps there before he hit the ground. Of course, nobody touched him, right? So, if somebody had a hand on him, when he hits the ground, then the ball comes out, ball's down right there. So I think the ruling of it and all that was clean, and it was really unfortunate, a max effort play, by Trey, a perfect throw by Baker, and it just was kind of that day, when that happened.
Speaking of Palmer,
Last one,
can you just
please.
talk about his development through the season? Obviously, he had the fumble, but I think
Yeah.
it was a breakout game for him,
Yeah.
really, on Sunday, and just kind of where he's been and where he was at and where he is now.
Absolutely. So, it wasn't a perfect game for him assignment-wise, but I think we've been looking for that other explosive factor, opposite of where Mike's at, So we had a little different formation, putting Mike in a non-normal spot, Trey kind of in the single. And if Mike gets attention, you're going to get those one-on-one opportunities. And, I went to him right after the fumble, found him on the sideline. I said, okay, don't let this one play take away from what this game has been for you. A couple of scramble plays that he made for us, and because for me it was kind of a coming of age for him. You're a factor, believe in this ability right here. We'll finish that play better next time. But I just wanted him to know, let's take care of the ball, yes, but don't lose what's happening here. You're playing yourself into becoming a pro, and I wanted to try to capitalize on that in an otherwise really hard day to find bright spots, about what we were doing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.